Welcome back to Opa Podcast, episode 50. Griffin, we're at episode 50.
The big 5-0 already?
Yeah. Too bad we couldn't get the entire crew, but like I said off air, when we get to episode 69, everyone's hopping on.
Hey, we love that.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for coming into either if you're watching or listening. Thank you so much. Today there's only two of us, so it's Griffin and myself. Say hi, Griff.
What's up, everybody?
And today, just a quick recap, everyone. So we'll be discussing and recapping our last home game recently against Colorado, and then previewing Big Ten opener against Michigan State at East Lansing, and then a couple other items to discuss to wrap the podcast. But to get started here, Griffin, our Golden Gophers won 49-7 this past weekend. I'd say a pretty dominating performance against an otherwise, from what I've been hearing over social media and newscasters, that the Buffaloes may be the worst P5 program or team right now in terms of FBS Power 5 conference teams.
I am definitely hearing the same things you are, because they definitely showed it on the first play when they fumbled it.
Yep. But I'm just gonna run through some quick stats. So I just so the fans know, I only got to see like half the game. I was doing my own things on Saturday with some friends, but trying my best to keep in tune with the game. Just to go into some details, our Golden Gophers, in terms of overall,
you want to launch the world's largest streaming channel.
Hang on, an ad tried to play on ESPN. Freaking okay. So the Gophers had 500 total yards. Each team both had a turnover. We had 29 first downs versus Colorado's 14. And then we also pretty much dominated the time of possession, 36:07 to Colorado's 23:53. Moving on from there, Tanner Morgan had a great day again. I'd say 11 of 16 for passing, 157 yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 INT. And then our backups were in as well. Cole Kramer was 1 for 1 for 9 yards. Ethan was 0 of 1. The team overall was 0 of 2. Rushing, Mohamed Ibrahim had a fantastic day. 23 carries or 202 yards. 8.8 yards average with 3 tutties. Other running backs, Bryce Williams only had 4 carries for 58 yards and 1 tutty. Potts, 13 for 51. Ethan, Jordan Newman, Preston Jell, and Tanner Morgan had something in there as well. Crab was actually leading in terms of receptions, 3 for 58, and the tutty before he, we'll get into in a bit here, but unfortunately before he got hurt. Then Brevin, Dalen, Daniel, Clay Geary, and Lemecki, I hope I pronounced his name right. Lemecki Brockington had something in there too, for a day on the offense. Defense ate it as well. Like they got at it against the Buffaloes. Mariano Sori-Marin leading the way in terms of total tackles, solos, and TFLs. And then unfortunately, Wyatt was a little hurt by this. Mark Crawford had a very poor ass punt, the one punt we had the entire game. And then Matthew Trickett was pretty much solid, 7 for 7 for extra points, but no field goals for this game. But any takeaways from you, Griffin?
I just thought watching Colorado, it's so funny that on one of the first drive of the game they fumble the ball. How bad can your offense be? How much can you just write into your own story about how bad you are? That was honestly hilarious. And then obviously with Mike Sanford being their OC, he did absolutely nothing for them in my eyes. I mean, we'll look at third down efficiency here, just comparing teams. Colorado was 1 for 12. They converted 1 third down the entire game. Meanwhile, we converted 13 of 15. Wherever Mike Sanford goes, the offense does not show up. So I'd like to see on, I know kind of at the end of the first half, we were kind of trying to do some more tempo things, which is where Crab got hurt. I hate that he got hurt on such like a I'd say a meaningless play. I mean, we don't got much time left. Crab is just trying to catch this little 5-yard crosser in front of him, and he just goes down funny. There's no hard hits, no whatever. This man is seeking a 7th year of eligibility. I mean, this couldn't happen to like a better person, honestly.
Yeah. And the thing that scares me though, if you're okay, we just dive into what's going on with Crab. So PJ in his press conference today to preview Michigan State pretty much announced he is out for the remainder of the season. He has to go into surgery this Wednesday, the 21st, which is, again, he's part of the Encore 4. PJ said to go proceed with the steps to get him another year of eligibility for the 7th season. But it is ultimately up to Crab, because now that I think about it, in his class is only Tanner, Mo, and John Michael Schmitz. And then once those three are graduate and out, it's just Crab is going to be the elder statesman on this team. And I don't know if you I know, remember Antoine Winfield? I think it was a redshirt sophomore or junior in his last season with us before, they're like, you still got a couple more seasons. He's like, no, I'll go on to the next level. So I think if whatever Crab decides, it either be coming back for his last and hopefully final season, or not, and move on to recover, focus on the combine, or hopefully get an invitation to the combine and become an NFL prospect that way. I don't blame him, because at this point, this man just needs a break.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I can see. I'll respect his decision either way. Whether he wants to come back, great. We want him. We want him to coach. We want him to play. We want him to mentor. We want all that. But also, if he wants to do what's best for him and he thinks that's stepping away from the Gophers, absolutely understandable. We were blessed with 6 years. I wish 6 full seasons of him, but we were blessed to have him for 6 years. And whatever he decides to go with, we respect.
I will say my most favorite plays are when he had, that foot toe tap against Fresno State. I think you were there for that game. It was a late night CBS game. Oh, that sucked. It was a late night broadcast. His touchdown against Penn State, where he threw the slant, the screen pass, and just juke 2 defenders from Penn State and got the touchdown to ice away the game further. So, I'm glad we had Crab. But I will also say, too, PJ mentioned it, and I had to go look back at the highlights. A lot of guys got the ball in terms of the passing game. You look at receivers, I mentioned Lemeki Brockington, Clay Geary, who's a 6-year guy as well. He was a walk-on Gopher for a bit, too. And then Daniel Jackson, Dalen Wright, Mike Brown-Stevens in terms of the passing game, alongside Crab. So 6 receivers. Brevin Spanford, and I'm not sure who our other tight ends' names are, but our other tight ends have been getting distributed the balls as well throughout the 3 games, even though they're second or third team as well. And then in terms of the running backs, Mo, Trey, Bryce, and the other guys are also getting screen passes too, or are being the 4th read when our quarterbacks can't find an open receiver. So even though I'm sad we lost Crab, and some people I've seen, especially I saw from Daily Gopher on Twitter and Gopher Illustrated, some people are I don't think we have a guy that's gonna be like Crab who could be the deep threat, just balls down the field. I think we'll have someone. I think someone will step up, but if we stick to what we know best, the slants, the RPO game, I think we'll be okay in terms of the receiving core.
Yeah, I think we are A-okay as well. We have plenty of receivers that have plenty of experience. It's not like we're bringing up it's not like we only have 2 stud receivers and we're trying to bring up a 3rd and coach them up in a game. It's no, we have, we can use our tight ends. We have Dalen Wright, Daniel Jackson, Mike Brown-Stevens, Clay Geary, Lemeki Brockington, and I'd say this is Clay Geary's time to shine, really.
Yeah.
We've seen of him before. He's an older guy, but he's someone that has shown flashes of brilliance, whether it's Just literally running the most basic routes to. I think he's really good with his hands as well. I mean, he's had a catch or receiving yards and these first couple games here, and he's always seems to be left open. It's like, I mean, we'll take 10, 15 yards if they're just going to leave him sit in a pocket of a zone. I mean, we'll take that any day of the week. So I think this is Clay's time to kind of take over that vet role. He might not be that big deep threat, but I think he's one we'll see getting a lot more targets at least. And I'd say this is for Dalen Wright too. This is his time to kind of be that deep threat. That's who I kind of see as our stretching the field receiver here.
Yeah, for sure. But to go back to the game, I think we can put the rest about Crab. Great career. Sad that it had to end this way, especially when we're about to get into conference play. But looking at the game overall, I will say I think from all and pretty much the entire game we dominated. If I have two notes to pick off, if that's the way to be, again, we're just being nitpicky at this point because like I get right now the three teams we played has been significantly lower competition from what our other colleagues and opponents in the Big Ten West and the East has played, obviously. But I will say that turnover that bounced off of was it Brevin's hands, that that sucked. In the red zone. Was it in the red zone or in the end zone?
No, I think it was actually just in I think it was around the 30 or 40 yard line.
Okay, because I think they start the ball off on the 11, so I think it was in the end zone, and then the guy just ran it out of the end zone to the 11. I don't remember how that went, but that happened. But I think we'll get better from that. I know Brevin can get better as well, so hopefully that gets resolved. And the other one was the penalties. I know PJ runs a very clean program in terms of penalties, but we had 4 to 5 penalties that first half, and then there was 0 second. I remember that play, I'm not sure which drive, but we had 1 or 2 penalties, and Mo on third down, 3rd and 24. They hand the ball to Mo. He breaks a couple of tackles and gets the first down, and tippy toes on the sideline too, in order not to go out of bounds, in order to keep that drive alive. And then it did get better. I think PJ gave him an earful at the half, but I think we need to get. I think the O-line has been getting better, less and less penalties, but I think we need to be pretty much set now because Michigan State, they're going to want to eat because they got their asses whooped last week by Washington.
Yep.
But other than that, again, very two nitpicky things. Again, a pick in the end zone, in the red zone. But again, it was we still had the field advantage for the defense because they just ate them away, and then we did have penalties the first half, but that was cleaned up pretty much by the second. But that's my 2 notes in terms of this game. But overall, dominating performance from great game from Tanner, Mo, Bryce, and Trey. Receivers did pretty well, including Crab before he went down. Brevin getting involved in the passing game there, and O-line slowly getting better. But I thought it was a great I'd say it was a fun non-conference slate. But let's get to some Big Ten play coming up.
Yeah, I'd say my 2 things, kind of my takeaways, is I'd want one as we enter Big Ten play. I thought Tanner's performance was very pedestrian. Wasn't good, wasn't bad. I mean, he was able to stretch the field, able to run some plays, but as we step into Big Ten play, he's gonna have to step up, make some bigger passes, better throws. I wouldn't attribute that interception to him. I'd want behind him, but Brevin's a big enough guy where you got to just make it happen. And then the second thing is our defensive line play. A lot of the offensive lines we're going to be facing are a lot better than some of these non-conference ones that we did. So just initial pressure from the D-line just to kind of make the quarterbacks scramble, feel uncomfortable in the pocket, and make some poor decisions. I would say those are kind of my 2 things as we head into Big Ten play.
All right, Griffin, let's move on then to preview against our first Big Ten game of the season. So it'll be taking place this Saturday, the 24th, a 2:30 p.m. Central kickoff in East Lansing. Just some quick numbers here. ESPN's FPI has the Gophers at pretty much 40% to win the game versus Michigan State 60. That number, that FPI has changed quite a bit since the season started. I will say that I will say the Gopher was favored pretty low in the FPI, so it has changed a bit. But the betting odds, while FPI says we're losing pretty much or favoring the Sparties, Moneyline has the Gophers at -2.5, and over under is at 51 for the game. And just going further into general team stats, Michigan State points per game is 38.3 versus our 49.7. They have points allowed per game. They have 17.3 points allowed versus our 5.7. Total yards, we have more, 555 to their 430. And yards allowed, we had only 170 to their 354. Again, still differences. Michigan State had different levels of competition, especially, again, like we mentioned earlier, they played Washington last game and literally got their asses whooped by Michael Penix, who, some of our listeners or watchers know that name, he was the former quarterback of Indiana in the same division. Literally had a field day against the Spartans, losing 28-39 that game. Yeah. Anything, Griff?
Yeah, I think for Michigan State, as we preview this game here, I know Laurent's mentioned it before, and there's some truth to it, where they were kind of carried last year by Walker at running back. Kind of really helped their offense. And then this year, I think they're a great team. I do think they are way more pedestrian than people are making them out to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're thinking they're a lot better than I think they actually are. I mean, I kind of see them as similar to the Gophers in terms of they like to run the ball. I know that for players wise, their main rusher Jalen Berger is still averaging 5.5 yards a carry.
Yeah,
that's fantastic numbers, and so this will be a really good test for the Gopher defense here coming up on Jalen Berger. They also have Jarek Broussard, who's put up almost 5 yards a carry as well, even though he's gotten about a little over half the carries. But then at wide receiver, they have Keon Coleman, who's averaging 15 yards a catch as well. So I do see a very balanced offense as well. They do throw and run the ball. And as you said, they score about 38 points a game. I think this will be one of the closest games the Gophers will play all year, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I could see us scoring both teams, and the final score for both teams going to end up between 20 and 30 points somewhere.
Yeah.
This game's really going to be one of those scrappy games because Mel Tucker's teams, they're gritty, they're scrappy, they'll fight till the end. There's no quit, even though they were down 11 or whatever to Washington. You never really give up. So this will be, I think, a scrappy, dirty game in football. Not like physically, but just a very scrappy game.
Yeah, for sure. I will say this. You want to move on to keys of the game then?
Sure.
I think, first of all, on the Gopher offense, I think you and I would probably agree, balance. We do have Big Ten rusher, Mohamed Ibrahim. He's going to be a big threat to them because I personally don't think, in terms of their level of competition that they played this year, so Western Michigan, Akron, and Washington, I don't think they faced a really good running back yet until this game. And I think Mo is going to make their defense, especially their defensive coaching staff, pull their hair out because they know if they let Mo run loose and he becomes a runaway locomotive, it's going to hurt them. And if even they stop the run, he is still a good passing option that he can still beat you in the air as well. And then also in terms of, even though we lost Crab, I do think trusting our receivers and tight ends is going to be very crucial as well. Because as we saw during like the 3 non-conference game, Brevin has been getting a lot of love from Kirk Shiraka and Tanner Morgan in terms of the offensive schemes and playmaking on the field. But also Dalen, Daniel, Mike Brown Stevens, and Clay Geary. I think those 4 guys will be essentially. I think if it makes sense, I think in the case when we had Crab was like wide receiver 1, but then Dalen, Daniel, Clay, and Mike were like 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. Like I'd say they're great solid options. So I think Michigan State's gonna have a difficult time, and as we saw from Washington, their secondary is kind of shaky.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally think a balanced attack, because they got to worry about Mo, but also like with Kirk Shiraka leading the way and Tanner being Tanner, don't sleep on the pass either.
Exactly. Yep, and I think that goes both ways.
Yeah.
For both defenses is all about how you're going to play that balance, because you have pretty good defenses, but pretty good players as well on each side of the ball. So we'll see how they adjust.
Yeah. And I think this is going to be a good game too for how our secondary is too. Again, we do return Justin Wally, Newbin, Howden, Terrell Smith as well. Those 4 guys are back. And from what we've seen from the first 3 games, pretty much shut down weaker competition. So I'm excited to see those guys handle some Big Ten receivers as well. Obviously, I think why I made this note, don't fuck up special teams. So Mark Crawford gotta not punt 24 yards, obviously, and then Matt Trickett. I think he's been has he been 100% kicking in terms of field goals?
Pretty sure he has. I haven't seen anything. He's 7 for 7 last week on extra points.
Yeah, so I think he's been pretty much perfect in terms of field goals, and I think his longest is one of the New Mexico State or the what was the other team, Western Illinois game. So I think we'll be okay in terms of special teams, but I think just be disciplined overall. I know in preseason I said the Gophers will lose, but this is gonna be a gritty game between these 2 really well coached teams. So do you have any other notes before we get on to predictions?
I think the last thing is, if we're talking about a couple things to like what's going to determine this game, and what might sway it one way or the other, is that you kind of mentioned with like special teams, it's field position. Field position is going to play a huge part in who wins this game and how many more opportunities one side might get more than the other, given their chances. Then the other thing is penalties. I could see this being a really clean game, or getting kind of a little bit undisciplined for both sides, because you kind of saw them get a little bit undisciplined against Washington.
Oh yeah,
they were getting heated on that side of the ball, but I think at least the Gophers are well enough coached where they can find their chill and not get too emotional in the moment. But penalties will be huge when it comes to Big Ten play, and then field position and how they're able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say this, you know what we have not seen? I know that was supposed to be the last point, but I think I have another point that we forgot to mention. Wildcat? We haven't seen it preseason, in pre-Big Ten play.
Didn't we have like a Cole Kramer Wildcat for one play, maybe?
Maybe, but I feel like that's because we put him in at quarterback for like a few series of seasons. I don't know.
Well, it's hard to say too, because we haven't opened our playbook per se.
Correct. So I think that's the one thing I forgot to think about, was that we really haven't opened the playbook. Like we were passing a lot more than we usually do. As Soup mentioned last podcast, we're throwing more than we normally do and blowing teams out more than we usually do. Versus like, once we get up 30, we just run the clock, and if we don't make the first down, we still punt the ball away. So we really haven't opened the playbook. And remember, this is the same offense with that Kirk Shiraka has led, where we did like the Philly with Tanner. um, some of those like I remember Indiana years ago, that year that we beat Wisconsin, where Rashad Bateman essentially just turned the Jets down the field, and Tanner just slung the ball down the field and caught it for the touchdown to end the game against Indiana. Like, I think there's more to the playbook. We just haven't seen it yet, including the Wildcat, which you and I are used to with the Seth Green days, and a little bit after he left.
Yep. This game will be very telling of what they have in their book.
Yeah, for sure. And I think last point, dominate the trenches too. Like, this is a pretty much brand new offensive line that we've had playing together. And Axel Rushmire that walked off the field injured a couple days ago, and Nathan Bowe stepped in. I think he's our sixth lineman for our sixth lineman package and special teams as well. And he was all right. I'm just worried, so hopefully Axel's okay. From what PJ said, he's okay. But I'm just worried about injuries and fighting in the battle with the trench, because like Michigan State's D line is pretty nasty in terms of what they can do.
Yes.
All right, so predictions. We both said preseason that we were losing, except for Wyatt. No, not Wyatt. Laurens. But I'm gonna give two scores if we win or lose. Since I said preseason we're losing, I said I'm gonna say 28-31. It's gonna be a close game, and we're gonna lose by 3. But if we do win, I'll flip that around. Gophers win 31-28.
Okay. So I picked an L, correct?
Yep.
I'll do the same thing. As if we lose, I'll say 30-27.
Oh, okay.
And then if we win, let's do 27-23.
Ooh.
I'm thinking this is going to be a dogfight.
All right. Awesome. Cool. You said loss 30-20, 27-30. If we did lose. Okay. All right. So that is it for previewing against Michigan State. Happy Big Ten opener for the Gophers coming up. And let's hope we get the dub and hope we're wrong about our preseason predictions.
I'm upset with myself.
All right, moving on. So, besides some upsets, like Michigan State getting pretty much whooped a little bit by Washington, I know I said last podcast I had a hot take that Nebraska would upset Oklahoma. They got wrecked by like 5 scores, and today Mickey fired their defensive coordinator too from Nebraska.
I didn't even see that. I'm a little sad because I'd like to torch their defense some more.
I know,
but that's
yeah,
probably a football program.
Yeah, Mickey fired their D coordinator today, or was it yesterday? What else? Let's see here. If you think about it too, we're still undefeated in the West.
The only undefeated.
Yeah, and if you look in terms of Big Ten scores as well, like, 'cause I know the Big Ten wins and loss record takes precedence before the overall record. So technically, right now, if you're looking from in first place, it's the Wildcats, Northwestern.
So weird.
Second is the Gophers, second is Gophers, and tied behind them is gonna be Wisconsin, Illinois, and is it Iowa? And then Purdue, Nebraska. I don't know. But yeah, essentially Gophers is pretty much second, and then the other teams behind us, the other 5 teams in the division, are sitting at either tied for third or tied for fourth in the division. And from what I was watching that Big Ten show today, that has Howard Griffith and the 2 other Dave Repson, and I forgot who's the gal. Apologize, I don't know your name. I apologize, but they're liking what they see from the Gophers in terms of like offense and defense and special teams, and the way how we play. But also, I think we shouldn't be sleeping like last year how we lost to Bowling Green, Illinois. I just think we should not do that, and I think it's better this year because from what you and I have seen, the Gophers are a player-led team, pretty much. Like I swear, I don't think PJ has to do much anymore. not much, but like he's doing less than like what we see him do because like his players are already doing it versus him telling them. So other than that, the West is I'm leaning towards our Ghosts just because we're biased, but the East, I don't know. Like Ohio State, Michigan are up there, and then there's the other teams behind them. So I don't know in terms of the East.
Yeah, the East, Michigan's looking pretty good on offense.
They replaced, was it McCarthy with McNamara with McCarthy at quarterback too, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember if they've decided yet who their starter is, but I think it is McCarthy, right?
Yeah, McCarthy, JJ McCarthy, because McNamara, the guy who led them to a playoff spot, is now like second string backup.
See, I wouldn't even call him a second string because I mean, I do remember now. Jim Harbaugh did say, for JJ McCarthy at least, it's your position to lose. You're basically renting this position. So I think sure JJ's like the primary starter, but as soon as he isn't playing as well as he should be, McNamara is going to go in there, and that is like the perfect scenario for Michigan fans, knowing that hey, if one quarterback goes down, we have a very capable backup that has plenty of reps. So
this is hot. You know what I want to see?
What?
Gophers win the West. Michigan wins the East. We're at the Big Ten championship game, and we're fighting not just for the Big Ten title, but for the jug.
Oh, I love it.
But we'll see if Jim can beat Jim and Michigan can beat Ohio State for the last game of the season, then it could happen. But we'll see. But you have anything else to talk about? I do have one more thing before we wrap here, but. Nope.
You said you had one more thing.
Yeah. Well, did you have anything else before I move on to this last piece here?
I think I've covered everything.
All right. So tonight is Monday Night Football. So Griffin and I will be a little bit busy watching that, but here's a quick score update. And in the first quarter, Titans and Bills are tied at 7-7. Tennessee has the ball as 3rd and 14 at the Tennessee 38-yard line. Let's see what else here. And our good old Minnesota Vikings are playing against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia, which kicks off in about like half an hour for us, literally. Excited for that. Jalen Reagor revenge tour, because he got traded from the Eagles to the Vikings, and he's now the Vikings punt returner and specialist, and wide receiver 3 or 4 or something like that. But excited to watch this. Dude, did you see Rashad Bateman eat against Miami before in that game? Like Lamar I think Bateman's breaking out with the Ravens after they traded, was it Marquise Brown out of town?
I mean, you talked about jets earlier in the podcast, and that's exactly what Bateman has on his feet.
Yeah, literally. What else? Tua is like looking better with the new offensive staff and additional players on their roster now too. um,
The
dude,
Dolphin, the Dolphins tight end doing the absolute worst gritty I've ever seen in my life.
yeah, yep. Let's see what else here. Oh, the Browns got shellacked, I think, too, last minute. Seahawks, after beating Russell Wilson, the Broncos, week one, got their butts whooped by Jimmy G. Unfortunately, Trey Lance got a broken ankle from that game as
I wonder
well.
how toxic the San Francisco locker room is, because I read a Bleacher Report article last night. I kind of like, it's kind of shame on Bleacher Report at the same time, but they said like privately a bunch of players and coaches were like, we're better with Jimmy G than we are Trey Lance. And I'm like,
Oh,
put that article out there after someone like gets severely injured, but also I'm like, why am I
yeah.
not surprised that the media? Like, it's the media. They're gonna want something that people click on.
They want to spice it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I could, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I can see that too, where it's they clearly like were balling out. He might be their best chance to win.
Yeah. Let's see what else here. But other than that, NFL and being NFL, but like the Bears lost to the Packers as well, so it looks like
Dude,
uh
Cardinals Vegas
I
Raiders game was,
know. I was about to go mention that. That was an insane ending.
I was sitting there like, oh my god, I can't believe they scored a last minute touchdown. Oh my god, I can't believe they scored the 2-point conversion to tie it. Oh my god, they're going to overtime. Oh my god,
And then
the Raiders up.
they fucked it up, fumbled the ball, and the Cardinals defense returned it for a touchdown to end the game in OT.
And I would have laughed because live it didn't look like the ball had crossed the goal line when I forgot the defender's name. He's number 7, but he like threw the ball like as the ball was crossing the plane, but it crossed the plane when he still had possession of it, and then he let.
Oh,
And I was thinking like, oh my god, that's going to be like a fumble out of the back of the end zone, or something crazy like that. So
yeah.
I almost thought that more to that game than that, but
I don't know, man.
yeah,
We're off to a crazy start. We all thought the Broncos were going to shellac the Seahawks, and then week 2, pretty much similar results. The Broncos didn't do too hot to win their week 2 game. The Vikings are week 1 like surprise. I was surprised that they beat the Packers the way they did last week. The insane ending of Cardinals and Raiders this past week. I'm like, damn, nothing's ever like whatever you think in the preseason for the NFL is not always what it comes out to be in the regular season.
and you never know. Mike Evans might punch Marshawn Lattimore again.
Oh yes, I think he ran out of the sideline right and got in a fight, and
Yes,
both got ejected.
they straight up just. I think Mike Evans. Oh yeah, they both got ejected, but Mike Evans was the only one that got a 1-game suspension. I think.
Was it only 1 game? I thought it was more.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
Well,
But
that's the sacrifice you make for protecting Tom Brady.
true. But hey, Cole Keeft doing some good work as tight end over there, blocking tight end for Tampa Bay and his offense.
Love it. Gophers in the pros, baby.
And then Anton Winfield Jr. doing some Anton Winfield Jr. things in Tampa Bay as well.
Open field sacks. We love it.
Yep. And I apologize for our other players that are former Gophers. Oh, besides Rashad, we talked about him earlier, but I don't know about the other players. I know Assezi is still with the Vikings on the active 53, but I don't think he dressed for week 1. And I think that might be the same case. He might not dress for this game for Monday night as well.
Devondre
Campbell with the Packers
Yep.
pretty much had a good week last week when they're in the loss, and then again this week as well. Let's see. I think Ty Johnson got cut from Tampa Bay too, and I'm not sure where he's
And
at
he
now.
was picked up, I believe, on waivers by the Texans.
Oh, the Texans.
Hey, man, when you're trying NFL, you'll take anything that comes to you.
True. And then Carter Coughlin still playing special teams, or trying to stay on the roster on special teams on defense for the Giants, who, if I'm being honest, the Giants surprised me because I thought with Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, I thought they weren't going to do well on offense, and somehow Saquon is doing Saquon things, and Daniel Jones is looking better too. So it's been interesting so far for the NFL. So that's all I have, is touch on that. Go watch some Monday Night Football. It's gonna be a fun night for that. But yeah, want to end it here?
I think it's a good point.
All right, awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening or watching episode 50 of Ope, a podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and we'll recap again, or we will be back again the week after to recap the game against Michigan State and then preview the game after, and also discuss more, and hopefully we have more of the guys on to talk as well. But thank you so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Again, I'm one of your hosts, Jason O, along with...
You're only other one online tonight, Griffin Most.
And we'll see y'all next time. And